Today, we're reacting to an ESPN discussion that touches on NFL coaching hires, team culture, and also one of the most surprising championship stories we've seen in sports. This is one of those debates that mixes strong opinions, frustration, and a lot of historical comparisons. Before we jump into the reaction, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more React videos.
There should absolutely be Green Bay Packers fans. Because Green Bay Packers need some nasty everywhere. Nuno is fighting that they need nasty on the offensive side of the ball. I agree. I've been saying they need nasty on the defensive side of the ball. That is out there. This is not a knock on Jeff Hafley. Seems like a great guy. He's a good head coach, or he's a good coach in terms of the defensive coordinator position. Great. I didn't see greatness on that Packers defense over the last couple of years for me. And now the Dolphins, yet again, have hired a first-time NFL coach. Now, he's not a first-time head coach, as he was the coach at BC, but Hafley, first-time head coach. Mike McDaniel, first-time head coach. Brian Flores, first-time head coach. Adam Gase, first-time head coach. Joe Philbin, first-time head coach. The late Tony Sparano, first-time head coach. Cam Cameron, former Indiana coach, first-time head coach. Nick Saban in the NFL, first-time head coach. This is what they do. They hire first-time NFL coaches. And you know what all of those guys have in common? 0 playoff wins. Your thoughts on Hafley?
Well, yeah, that's 8 in a row. First-time head coaches, I believe, that you just named. And maybe, unlike his predecessors, Jeff Hafley can win some playoff games, or at least that's what they're hoping. I was not surprised by this move, Ev, because when Eric Sullivan was plucked from the Packers organization to be the new general manager of the Miami Dolphins, the dots started getting connected. They're essentially turning Miami into Lambeau South. They are plucking all of the pieces from Green Bay that they think they can in order to try to replicate some of the success that the Packers have had. And I think that what the Dolphins are doing is they're saying, okay, we identified Eric Sullivan as the guy to build the team. Who is he comfortable working with in concert with in order to make sure that everyone is on the same page? And obviously they have that connective tissue. And this is not a diss on Jeff Hafley, because I think he presents as a very good leader. People love him in and around Green Bay. The players love him. I know Micah was tweeting about it. And if you've ever watched him do an interview, he presents very well. I have no doubt that he's going to be a good leader. However, to your point about 8 consecutive first-time head coaches in Miami that have not had success, I know that Hafley had other interviews and other opportunities, and Eric Sullivan had identified that this is who he wanted his head coach to be, so they wanted to make sure and lock this up before another team perhaps swooped in. But when Sean McDermott becomes available, I'm a little surprised that Miami wasn't like, hang on, we have to do our due diligence.
Same with Tennessee, for that matter.
We have to kick our tires on Sean McDermott and see if he would be interested in coming to Miami. And maybe they put out those feelers and you speak with him, and ultimately you think it's too fresh or whatever, and you don't think he's the right person, or your GM really thinks that he can work well with Hafley, and you elect to go in this direction. But I was just really surprised that based
Early on, this feels like a lot of frustration being taken out on the Dolphins. As a normal fan, it's easy to understand the concern when a team keeps hiring first-time coaches and keeps getting the same results. At some point, it just feels like recycling hope instead of actually changing anything.
on the news of yesterday with Sean McDermott, that wasn't more prevalent before this hire was made.
Why is creating Lambeau South a good thing?
Go on.
Well, is Lambeau North a good thing?
Yes.
It is. To
If
not
you're
win the
the
division
Miami
and underachieve
Dolphins,
every year?
you need stability. You need to bring in people that know what you're giving me this face.
But you think the Packers have displayed stability over the last 12 months?
Yes.
How? In what world? They didn't know if they wanted to bring back their coach. They didn't know if they wanted to bring back their general manager. Their quarterback, while he played well, 4 touchdowns in the playoffs, has never won the division. They fell apart late in the season. They were significantly better in the first couple of games than they were in the last couple of games. And you want to recreate that in Miami?
Do you think the Pittsburgh Steelers are a stable organization?
In this moment? No, not today. Compared to what they've been? No. Compared to what the Packers have been? No.
Just because you're not having success does not mean you lack stability.
So you want to be stable in lack of success?
And let's make no mistake about it. It's not like the Steelers and the Packers are in the dregs of the NFL. It's not like they're dysfunctional.
No, the Dolphins
The Miami Dolphins are dysfunctional.
Right. And I will be happy for them to be proven wrong. I have no belief that this is going to look so much different than in years past. Like, as a Pats fan, you think I'm scared of Jeff Hafley taking over in Miami? I can only hope he does with Miami what he did with Green Bay, he and LaFleur, where they're like almost good. Cool.
That would be a big step up for the Dolphins.
No, Mike McDaniel had them almost good. Brian Flores had them almost good. This feels like maybe he'll have them almost good. I don't look at this, and I can't believe they didn't say to John Harbaugh, the Giants are offering you, making up numbers here, 20. How does 21 sound in more power? Like, get me a guarantee.
But it's going to be lean there for
Parents' weekend, so all of the students can enjoy it with a football win. And now they're the best team in America. They are the most unlikely champion since 888-SAY-ESPN is your telephone number to join the show on the Dr. Pepper call-in line. Ed in Michigan, listening on Sirius XM 80. Morning, Ed.
Good morning, guys. Hey, real quick, I'll make 2 points. The 1979 NHL All-Star team lost to the Russians 6-0. The same Russians that lost to the college team in 1980. That's 1 point. The second point, the 2004 Detroit Pistons, they were a team. They weren't a bunch of all-stars, just like this team here. They're not a bunch of five-star chips. It's a team. As the greatest team, it's probably the greatest college team we've ever seen in football, because it's not the 5 stars. It's not this. It's not that. It's not a bunch of number 1 draft picks. First-round draft picks. As a team, that's it. Those are my 2 examples. You guys have a great day.
Yeah, it's interesting. 04 Pistons have Hall of Famers now. Ben Wallace and Chauncey Billups are in the Hall of Fame. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. And when we're saying this team, this Indiana team is not lit.
This part gets more heated and honestly more real. The argument about stability without success hits hard, because from the outside, it feels like some teams confuse being decent with actually being dangerous. As a fan, you don't want to be almost good forever. You want to feel like your team can actually scare someone in the playoffs.
With first rounders. They will have the number 1 overall pick in the draft. But yet I agree with that point. It's weird to say it that way, Smalls, where they don't feel like if you look at that LSU roster, you're like,
stacked.
Are you kidding? And some of the old Miami rosters.
Stacked.
I do wonder, though, if this roster ultimately becomes that. Because if you were an NFL team, wouldn't you want guys that are coached by Cignetti who understand how to star in their role like this?
Yes.
So I wonder if we retroactively look at this team and say, well, they have like 20 NFL guys on that team. We just don't feel it in the moment, right?
I mean, maybe. But to Coach's point, it's not like we're looking at this roster and we're like, oh, there's 8 guys easy that are going to go in the first or second round of the draft, like we did with some of those Georgia teams. And, of course, that LSU team where you're like, okay, Burrow, Jefferson, those guys are all going to the league. We know Fernando Mendoza, but how many of these other guys do you have circled on the roster saying, yes, that is definitely a Sunday guy?
Fair point. Joel in Delaware watching on YouTube TV on ESPN2. Morning, Joel.
Morning. I just want to piggyback off what Ed said, but my problem is that when the U.S. beat Russia or Soviet Union, they did that in Lake Placid. So are you going into Miami, beating Miami in Miami? That's crazy.
Right. And if you remember, that game on February 22nd, 1980 was the semifinal game, which is weird. Everybody remembers that moment, Miracle on Ice, as the greatest thing ever against Russia. But they still had another game after that, right? So maybe that's Indiana beating Ohio State in the Big Ten.
It's like the Red Sox beating the Yankees in the ALCS.
Imagine they didn't win the World Series.
And then they swept the Cardinals. No one remembers they swept the Cardinals.
Right.
They just remember they beat the Yankees in the CS.
Fair. TJ in Maine listening on Sirius XM 80. Morning, TJ.
Good morning, sir. How are you? Listen, so I don't know if there is a better story than this, but the first thing that came to mind was Buster Douglas over Mike Tyson, one of the most improbable victories ever.
Okay, let's talk about that. Tyson Douglas, Tyson versus Douglas, great killer song. But that is where this goes. Smalls, think about this morning. When people are thinking about the totality of this Indiana football team, that is, we have pointed out, is really a 2-year thing, not just a 1-year thing, because they were really good last year. But we're comparing it to some of the greatest upsets in American sports history. Miracle on Ice, Tyson versus Douglas. That's what we're comparing this to.
Do you not remember the stat I gave you about their 715 losses being the second most in FBS history? Just one behind Northwestern? They're quite literally a essentially the worst team in the history of college football. And they just went undefeated and won a national championship by beating Miami in Miami.
Can we have Cam and crew back there at Vegas East? Can we have you guys just for, I should have asked this. I just thought of this. The second most losses in the history of college basketball. I wonder who the equivalent is in college basketball.
Interesting.
I just wonder what that would. Now, I don't know if it's going to be a team like North Carolina or Kansas that's played forever and thus has that amount of losses. But I think that would be interesting to hear the basketball equivalent of like, oh, that team would win it all.
But even in basketball, though, we have the term Cinderella. We have
a fluky tournament, that kind of thing.
It's a tournament.
Overall, this reaction shows both sides of sports. Frustration at the professional level and magic at the college level. In the NFL, patience runs out fast and almost good just isn't enough anymore. Meanwhile, college sports still give us those once-in-a-lifetime stories that feel impossible. Moments like these are why debates get emotional and why fans stay invested year after year. Whether it's questioning front offices or celebrating unlikely champions, this is what keeps sports fun. If you enjoyed this reaction, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more reactions and discussions.